I never imagined my life could change with a single request from my boss. My name is Arjun, a 26-year-old junior manager at a mid-sized marketing firm in the heart of the city. I had always taken pride in my work, sharp presentations, meticulous organization, and a reputation for being dependable. But beneath the polished exterior, I had a secret. I had a fascination with crossdressing. Not as a public indulgence, but as a private form of self-expression. I loved experimenting with clothes, makeup, and hairstyles in the safety of my room, feeling the thrill of exploring a side of myself the world would never see. My relationship with Emma had been steady for 3 years. She was confident, supportive, but also fiercely independent. I had never told her about my private crossdressing adventures. I wasn't sure how she'd react. While we shared everything else, this part of me remained tucked away. Until that day. It started as an ordinary Thursday morning. The office was bustling as usual, the hum of keyboards, ringing phones, and casual chatter blending into a rhythm I knew well. My boss, Mr. Kapoor, a man in his early 40s with impeccable suits and a sharp eye for presentation, called me into his office. "Arjun, we need to talk," he said, his tone unusually serious. He gestured toward the chair in front of his desk. I sat down, heart thudding with curiosity and unease. "There's a client dinner tonight," he began, adjusting his cufflinks. "High-profile people. International partners. They're coming to our office before the dinner for a pre-meeting. I need someone to impress them, make a statement." I nodded, expecting a task like setting up the presentation or preparing refreshments. But then he leaned back, and his eyes sparkled with an unusual intensity. "I want you to attend the client meet as a woman." The words hit me like a jolt of electricity. My mouth went dry. "Excuse me?" I managed, hoping I had misheard. Mr. Kapoor smiled, almost knowing my thoughts. "I've noticed your interest in crossdressing. You've got an eye for presentation, a sense of style. If you could attend the meeting as a woman, you'd leave a lasting impression. Think of it as marketing yourself, quite literally." I swallowed hard. The idea of being transformed, paraded in front of clients, terrified me. But there was a strange, undeniable thrill running through me. Could I actually do it? Could I show the world this hidden side of me without losing control of my life? Back at my apartment, the thoughts swirled relentlessly. I looked in the mirror, imagining myself in skirts, high heels, carefully applied makeup. My reflection was still Arjun, but I could feel Mia, the version of me I had secretly loved for years, waiting to emerge. Emma walked in just then, carrying groceries. "What are you thinking about so intensely?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I forced a smile, brushing it off. "Nothing, just work stuff." She didn't press further, but I could feel her curiosity. I decided I couldn't tell her yet. Not now. Not when I was still processing Mr. Kapoor's request. That evening, I sat on my bed, surrounded by boxes of clothing Mr. Kapoor had provided. Dresses, blouses, skirts, high heels, even makeup kits. I felt my pulse quicken as I ran my fingers over the soft fabrics. Each piece was a portal, a way to become Mia fully. My fingers trembled slightly as I picked a flowing navy blue dress, imagining the way it would hug my shoulders, cinch at the waist, and flow gracefully down my legs. High heels. I had practiced walking in them before, but never in front of anyone else. I slid my feet into a pair of black stilettos, feeling the shift in posture, the elevation, the subtle sway that made every step more delicate, more feminine. Makeup was next. Foundation, concealer, eyeshadow, mascara, lipstick. The entire transformation was both terrifying and intoxicating. As I applied the last stroke of mascara, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Mia's eyes stared back at me, wide, confident, and shimmering with something I had never fully allowed myself to feel before. Liberation. The thought of showing myself to the clients, and more importantly, to Emma if she ever found out, sent a shiver down my spine. My chest tightened with anticipation, fear, and excitement all at once. Could I pull this off without humiliation? Could I convince the world that Mia was just as real as Arjun, at least for tonight? I glanced at my phone and saw a message from Mr. Kapoor. Be ready at 7 p.m. This is your moment. Make them remember you. My pulse raced. The evening promised danger, suspense, and a thrill unlike anything I had experienced. I wasn't just cross-dressing for pleasure tonight. I was performing, surviving, and testing the boundaries of my identity. The room seemed to close in around me, the soft hum of the city outside the window blending with the rapid beat of my heart. As I stood in front of the mirror one last time, adjusting the dress, sliding my hair into place, and perfecting the subtle arch of my brows, I whispered to myself, "This is it, Mia. Time to step into the world." And with that, the transformation began. As I heard the first knock on my apartment door, Mr. Kapoor's assistant, come to escort me to the client meeting, I realized there was no turning back. Tonight, Mia would walk into the office, and I had no idea how the world would react. The door swung open, and my pulse surged. What awaited me on the other side could change everything. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, cutting across my apartment floor in warm, golden stripes. I had just finished my routine coffee when I noticed the package waiting by the door. A sleek box with a handwritten note from Mr. Kapoor. Time to fully embrace your potential. Are you ready? I hesitated. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the box. Inside were several outfits, each more daring than the last. Dresses with sequins that glittered like tiny stars, skirts that swayed provocatively, heels that promised elegance and power in every step. My pulse quickened as I lifted the first dress, feeling the delicate fabric between my fingers. The thrill of transformation surged through me. Mia was waiting, hiding just beneath the surface of Arjun, and now she had a chance to step forward. Yet, the fear gnawed at me. What if someone laughed? What if this didn't work? What if I wasn't convincing enough? I held the dress to my body, staring into the mirror. My reflection looked back with wide eyes, half Arjun, half Mia, both trapped in the uncertainty of what was about to unfold. The excitement and terror intertwined, a dizzying cocktail I couldn't ignore. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Kapoor. Clients arrive in 1 hour. Make sure Mia is ready. I froze, heart pounding. 1 hour. Could I truly step into Mia and face the world as her? I set the package down, trembling. Outside, the city was waking up, but inside me, a storm of fear and excitement raged, threatening to break loose at any moment. Finding a quiet corner in the office wasn't easy. My heart raced as I stepped into the small storage room, hoping no one would wander in. The first dress from Mr. Kapoor's package shimmered under the harsh fluorescent lights, its soft fabric teasing my fingers as I ran them across the silky surface. I knew that once I put it on, Mia would take over completely, and there would be no turning back. The sound of my heels clicking against the floor echoed loudly, making me more self-conscious than ever. With a deep breath, I slipped out of my usual clothes, each layer feeling like a barrier between Arjun and Mia. When I finally pulled the dress over my shoulders, the fabric hugged my frame in ways I had only imagined in private. It felt electric, thrilling, and terrifying all at once. Adjusting the heels, I teetered slightly, suddenly acutely aware of how every movement made me look and feel exposed. I practiced walking a few steps, feeling the unfamiliar sway in my hips. Each movement reminded me that Mia wasn't just a disguise. She was an entirely different persona. A sudden noise from outside made me freeze. A co-worker's footsteps echoed just beyond the door. I held my breath, clutching the hem of the dress, praying they wouldn't notice anything unusual. My pulse thumped in my ears as I realized how fragile this act was. One wrong step, one slip of composure, and everything could unravel. I looked into the mirror, forcing myself to breathe evenly. Mia stared back at me with confident eyes, but beneath the polished surface, Arjun's nervousness still lingered. Could I maintain this balance for the clients? Could I convince everyone I was fully prepared for what lay ahead? Then my phone buzzed again. A message from Mr. Kapoor. 5 minutes, Mia. Time to shine. My reflection seemed to smirk at me, daring me to step out and face the scrutiny waiting just beyond the door. Could I truly become Mia under everyone's gaze? Every glance, every whisper, every step reminded me. I wasn't just hers, I was her, and the world was starting to notice. The morning light streamed through the blinds, illuminating the soft fabric of my new dress. Every curve, every delicate detail of my feminized self reflected Liam's meticulous care and control. I had fully embraced her identity, obedient, delicate, and undeniably feminine. Liam entered quietly, his calm presence anchoring me. "Today," he said softly, "you'll experience life as her fully. No hesitations, no shadows of your old self. The world will see her, and you will learn how irresistible she can be." Our first stop was the downtown fashion district, bustling with crowds and cameras. Every step I took in heels, every sway of my hips, every tilt of my head, drew attention. Strangers whispered, some smiled, some stared, and every glance reinforced my feminization. "Walk with confidence," Liam instructed. "Let them admire her. Every eye on her strips away the boy you were even further." I felt the thrill, the shame, the forbidden excitement of being fully visible as her. The boy I had been seemed like a distant memory, replaced entirely by the girl Liam had sculpted. Later, we entered a luxury cafe, where Alex awaited. His eyes widened as he saw me, admiration and desire clear. You look incredible," he whispered. Heat surged through me. My knees trembled slightly in heels, voice delicate and trembling. I'm hers," I whispered, glancing at Liam for confirmation. Liam smiled knowingly. "Exactly. She is yours to admire, yes, but remember, she belongs to me. And now, she's thriving, desired, and undeniably feminine." The day escalated with a social challenge, orchestrated by Liam. He guided me to interact with strangers, accept compliments, and even pose for photographs. Every word, every glance, every gesture reinforced the identity he had built. Shame and humiliation mingled with a dangerous, thrilling excitement. I hated that I enjoyed the attention, but I couldn't resist it. I was becoming her fully, thriving in public scrutiny. Back at the apartment, Liam orchestrated an intimate reflection session. "Look at her," he whispered, brushing my hair from my face. "Every inch, every curve, every glance proves it. You are hers completely. And now you will feel it in every interaction, every word, every look." I sank to my knees before the mirror, overwhelmed by fear, thrill, and forbidden pleasure. My reflection, delicate, feminized, undeniably female, stared back, undeniable and perfect. The public exposure and attention had left me trembling, exhilarated, and terrified. The girl I had become was thriving, desired, and fully controlled. But could I truly live this life, or would the lingering shadow of my old self resurface at the worst possible moment? Every glance, every whisper, every step reminded me. I wasn't just hers, I was her. And the world was starting to notice. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, reflecting softly off the silk of my dress. Every detail, my hair, makeup, delicate curves, was a testament to Liam's control and meticulous training. I no longer recognized the boy I had been. He felt like a shadow, a ghost slipping further away with every passing day. Liam entered, calm and commanding as always. "Today," he said softly, "you'll experience life fully as her. No hesitation, no shadows of your old self. The world will see her, and she will shine." My chest tightened. Fear and exhilaration collided. The thrill of public exposure, of being truly seen, mixed with shame so intense it made my knees weak. Yet I knew this was exactly what Liam wanted. We stepped into the bustling downtown fashion district, a sea of people, lights, and cameras. Every step I took in heels, every sway of my hips, every tilt of my head drew attention. Whispers followed me, some admiring, some curious. I could feel the weight of their eyes, the thrill of being fully visible, fully feminized. "Walk with confidence," Liam instructed. "Let them admire her. Every glance strips away the boy you were." I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, my hands trembling slightly as I smoothed the skirt of my dress. The adrenaline was intoxicating. Shame and excitement tangled, each glance I received deepening the surreal reality that I was no longer a boy. By mid-morning, we arrived at a posh cafe. Alex was already there, his eyes widening as he took in my appearance. You look incredible," he whispered, his admiration unmistakable. Heat surged through me. My voice trembled as I whispered back, I'm hers." I glanced at Liam for approval, and he simply smiled, hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "Exactly," he said softly. "She is yours to admire, yes, but remember, she belongs to me. And now, she's thriving, desired, and undeniably feminine." The thrill of being observed, admired, and simultaneously under Liam's control was overwhelming. I felt an intoxicating mix of embarrassment, pleasure, and fear. My cheeks flushed, my breath shallow. Liam had planned a more intense public test. He guided me to approach strangers, accept compliments, and pose for photographs at a small promotional event. Every word, every glance, every gesture reinforced my feminized identity. "Sway naturally," he instructed. "Smile softly. Speak delicately. Let them see her. Every glance confirms she is hers." I could feel the eyes of dozens of strangers on me, hear the whispers, and feel the invisible pressure to maintain perfection. The shame was almost unbearable, yet beneath it, a thrilling warmth surged. I hated that I was enjoying the attention, yet every part of me responded, obedient and alive. After the public challenge, Alex followed us to a quieter street, his gaze lingering. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, admiration evident in every syllable. Heat rose to my cheeks, knees trembling in heels. My voice shook as I whispered, I'm hers." The words were both confession and surrender. Liam's calm presence reassured me. "Exactly," he said softly. "The thrill you feel, the attention, the desire, it is all part of what makes her completely hers." The intensity of emotions, desire, shame, thrill, obedience, made me dizzy. I realized I was fully inhabiting this feminine identity, living it in public and in private, completely under Liam's orchestration. Back at the apartment, Liam guided me to my favorite mirror, the soft light highlighting my feminized form. "Look at her," he whispered, brushing hair from my face. "Every inch, every gesture, every glance proves it. The boy you were is gone. You are hers completely, undeniably. And now you will feel it in every interaction, every word, every look." I sank to my knees before the mirror, overwhelmed by fear, shame, exhilaration, and forbidden thrill. My reflection, delicate, feminized, undeniably female, stared back, perfect and unyielding. Public exposure, romantic attention, and Liam's absolute control left me trembling, exhilarated, and terrified. The girl I had become was thriving, desired, and fully controlled, but could I truly live this life forever, or would the lingering shadow of the boy I had been resurface at the worst possible moment? Every step I took, every glance from strangers, reminded me I was no longer the boy I had been, and the girl Liam had created had to face her past and the world. The morning light poured softly into the apartment as Liam prepared me for what he called the ultimate public test. Today, I would face a crowded beauty pageant audition, a scenario designed to push my feminization to its limits while forcing me to confront someone from my past who could expose the boy I had been. "You've grown," Liam said softly, his hand brushing my hair. "Today, you'll walk into the spotlight, and the world will see her strength, her beauty, her complete surrender. And when someone recognizes you, you'll see how far she's come." I swallowed hard, a mix of fear, excitement, and shame twisting in my stomach. My reflection, delicate, feminized, undeniably female, stared back. The boy I had been felt like a fading shadow. We arrived at a crowded hall, the air thick with perfume, chatter, and polished heels clicking against the floor. Contestants adjusted their hair, posed, and whispered to one another. Liam guided me through the hall, posture straight, movements fluid, voice soft yet confident. Sway naturally, he whispered. Smile. Engage, let them see her. Every glance confirms she is hers. Strangers stared. Whispers followed my every movement. The thrill, the humiliation, the forbidden excitement. Every emotion collided inside me. I hated that I enjoyed it, yet I could not deny the power of my feminized identity. As I posed for my turn, I felt a familiar gaze. My heart froze. Nathan, the friend who had known me as a boy, stood at the edge of the hall, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. I can't believe it's you, he whispered under his breath. Heat surged through me. Shame, fear, and a strange, thrilling pleasure churned together. Liam's hand rested lightly on my shoulder, anchoring me. Remember, he whispered, she is hers. Every glance, every word, every recognition confirms it. I swallowed, cheeks flushed, and whispered softly. I'm hers. The words were a confession, a surrender, and a shield against the past that threatened to break me. Liam guided me to the stage. Every step in heels, every sway of my hips, every tilt of my head drew attention. Applause, whispers, and flashes from cameras reinforced my feminization. Smile softly, Liam instructed. Every step confirms she is hers. Every gesture strips away the boy you were. I felt exposed, humiliated, yet exhilarated. The thrill of public attention, the shame of being recognized, and the forbidden excitement of surrendering fully to Liam created an intoxicating mix. Backstage, Liam handed me a mirror. Look at her, he whispered. Every inch, every curve, every glance proves it. The boy you were is gone. She belongs to me, completely, undeniably. I sank to my knees, overwhelmed by fear, shame, and a forbidden thrill. My reflection, delicate, feminized, undeniably female, stared back, perfect and unyielding. The public test and confrontation with Nathan left me trembling. The girl I had become was thriving, desired, and controlled, but would the recognition from the past shatter her confidence, or had she finally become fully hers, unbreakable and undeniable? The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and I stepped inside, heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Each sound echoed like a countdown to a challenge I wasn't sure I was ready for. The mirrored walls reflected Mia's image back at me, making her presence feel more tangible than ever. I gripped the railing lightly, forcing my posture upright, and tried to steady the racing in my chest. Every floor that ticked by made my anxiety grow. I imagined the clients waiting on the top floor, their eyes scanning every detail, their judgment silently weighing me. Could Mia survive the scrutiny? Could I? A co-worker stepped in unexpectedly, and my stomach dropped. Her glance lingered just a fraction too long, and I panicked, gripping the railing tighter. I could feel the thrill of exposure mixed with a deep, raw fear. My reflection in the mirrored walls stared back with an almost mocking curiosity, as if Mia herself was testing me. Are you ready to truly step out? I focused on controlling my breathing, letting each inhale anchor me. The dress swayed with every small movement, the heels adding an unfamiliar rhythm to my steps. For the first time, I felt what it meant to inhabit Mia fully, even in such a public and enclosed space. Then, the elevator dinged as we reached the top floor. The door slid open to a bustling lobby. I could hear the murmur of voices, the shuffle of footsteps, the anticipation in the air. My pulse shot up. The clients were near, their presence just beyond the threshold. Cliffhanger. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but a sudden voice from the corridor made me freeze.
Mia?
Is that really you? The moment that voice called out Mia, my entire body stiffened. My first instinct was to turn and run back into the elevator, but my legs wouldn't move. Slowly, I shifted my gaze toward the sound. It was Daniel, a junior associate from another department, someone I'd spoken to only in passing as Michael. His eyes lit up with recognition, though not the kind I feared. He smiled warmly, as if he had known Mia forever. Relief rushed through me, but it was mixed with a surge of panic. If he connected me to Michael, everything would unravel. "Wow," he said, stepping closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "You must be the consultant Mr. Parker mentioned. I didn't expect someone so impressive." His words caught me off guard. My cheeks flushed, though I quickly forced a smile. "Thank you," I said softly. The voice Emma had helped me practice slipping out effortlessly. It shocked me how natural it sounded, feminine, lilting, almost playful. Daniel led me through the hall, and soon we entered the meeting room. My heart skipped. A polished table stretched across the room, surrounded by 3 high-profile clients, all powerful, watchful, and intimidating. Mr. Parker, my boss, stood confidently at the head of the table, and when his eyes landed on me, he gave the subtlest nod of approval. I felt the weight of the client's gaze immediately. They looked me up and down, not in suspicion but in admiration. The dress hugged me perfectly, the makeup enhanced every feature, and in that moment, Mia wasn't a disguise. She was real. I sat gracefully beside Mr. Parker, my hands folded neatly on the table, though my palms were slick with sweat. The clients asked questions, and to my surprise, my voice didn't tremble. My words flowed, articulate and persuasive. Each time I spoke, I saw Mr. Parker's lips curve into a satisfied smirk. But then, midway through the discussion, one of the clients leaned forward. His sharp gaze locked on me, and his lips curled into a knowing smile. "Excuse me, Mia," he said smoothly. "I don't mean to be intrusive, but there's something intriguing about you. I feel as if we've met before. Haven't we?" The room fell silent, every eye pinned on me. My pulse roared in my ears. My throat tightened, and I forced a smile, but the client's stare didn't waver. He was waiting for an answer that could shatter everything. The air in the conference room felt suddenly heavy, pressing down on me as the client's question lingered. "Haven't we met before?" I forced a polite smile, my mind racing. Every instinct screamed at me to bolt, but I steadied myself, folding my hands tighter in my lap to hide the trembling. "I don't believe so," I replied, my voice light, carefully measured. "But I meet many people in this industry. It's possible we've crossed paths without realizing." The client's eyes narrowed slightly, his curiosity sharpening, but he leaned back with a small chuckle. "Perhaps you're right. Still, you have a presence, very memorable." The tension in my chest eased slightly, but I couldn't let my guard down. My boss gave me a fleeting look, a silent warning. "Stay composed. Don't slip." The rest of the meeting continued, but I found it harder to concentrate. My hands brushed the hem of my skirt, adjusting it nervously. At one point, when I shifted in my chair, the strap of my high heel slipped loose, dangling precariously from my foot. My stomach dropped. One careless move and the shoe could fall, drawing attention I couldn't afford. I pressed my foot down firmly, hiding the mishap under the table, praying no one noticed. But Daniel, sitting across from me, tilted his head slightly, his eyes flicking toward my shoes before meeting mine with an almost curious smile. Did he suspect? Or was he simply noticing the obvious awkwardness? The meeting wrapped up successfully, at least on the surface. The client seemed satisfied, my boss shook hands confidently, and I rose from the table with what I hoped looked like poised elegance. But inside, I was unraveling. As I walked toward the door, the loose heel wobbled dangerously again. I caught myself just in time, gripping the edge of the doorway for balance. But in that instant, I heard it, a hushed whisper from behind. "She walks like she's not used to heels." The words weren't loud, but they sliced through me like a blade. My breath caught, and for a split second, I was certain everyone in the room had heard. I turned slowly, heart pounding, wondering who had spoken, and whether my carefully built facade of Mia was already starting to crack. Back in the office, I tried to breathe, to ground myself, but the echo of that whisper clung to me. "She walks like she's not used to heels." It could have been a throwaway comment, nothing more. But in my rattled state, it felt like a loaded gun pointed directly at me. My boss seemed unbothered, almost smug with how the meeting had gone. He leaned casually against my desk, praising me in that smooth, managerial tone.
See?
I told you they'd be impressed. You carried yourself brilliantly, Mia.
Mia.
The name no longer sounded foreign on his tongue, and that terrified me more than anything else. I forced a laugh. I almost tripped in there. Not exactly brilliant. He waved it off, his eyes gleaming with a strange satisfaction. They didn't notice. And even if they did, they liked you. That's what matters. Our client list is about to double, thanks to you. His words should have filled me with pride, but instead, they wrapped around me like a noose. The more successful Mia became, the harder it would be for me, the real me, to come back. And then, as if summoned by my panic, Daniel appeared at my doorway. His easy smile disarmed me, but his eyes held something sharper. You were impressive in there, he said warmly. Though, forgive me if I'm wrong, you seemed a little nervous. Almost like you were playing a role. My throat tightened. Was it a harmless observation, or was he digging? My boss shot me a quick look, his expression unreadable, before stepping aside to let me answer. I try to sound casual light. Well, high-stakes meetings can be intimidating. Anyone would be nervous. Daniel studied me a moment longer, then chuckled. Of course. I just couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen you somewhere else before. Every hair on my body stood on end.
He suspects.
He knows something. As Daniel left with a polite nod, I caught my boss's expression. Calm, calculating. And in that moment, I couldn't tell which was worse, Daniel's suspicion or my boss's silence. That night, I sat in my apartment, makeup wiped clean, wig removed, the dress crumpled across the chair. For the first time in weeks, I stared at myself in the mirror, the real me, the man who should have been in charge of his own life. But the reflection only looked like a stranger. My skin still smelled faintly of perfume. My nails, painted soft pink, betrayed me even out of costume. I had been Mia for so long that she was starting to bleed into me. The doorbell rang. My heart skipped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I padded carefully to the door, half expecting my boss. He had a way of showing up uninvited. But when I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was Daniel.
He wasn't smiling this time.
His eyes flickered from my bare face to the soft traces of eyeliner I hadn't completely erased, then to the dress hanging on the chair just visible behind me. Sorry for dropping by, he said, his tone deceptively casual. But something's been bothering me, and I had to see for myself. I stepped in front of the doorway, trying to block his view, my pulse hammering in my throat. This isn't a good time. But Daniel leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. You're not who you say you are you? The words sliced through me. My carefully constructed facade teetered, seconds away from crumbling. And then, before I could answer, a shadow moved down the hall. My boss emerged from the elevator, calm as ever, holding a sleek folder under his arm. He stopped when he saw us, his lips curling into a knowing smile. Well, he said smoothly, his eyes flicking between me and Daniel, looks like the truth is finally catching up. Trapped between Daniel's suspicion and my boss's calculating smirk, I realized my secret wasn't just at risk. It was about to explode. The hallway felt suffocating. Daniel stood at my door, confusion and betrayal etched across his face, while my boss leaned casually against the wall, as if he had orchestrated this very moment. Would you like to invite us in? My boss asked, his voice silky, dangerous. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. My throat tightened. My body moved before my brain did, stepping aside to let them in. Daniel brushed past me, his eyes still locked on the dress draped over the chair. The room felt smaller with both of them inside. Daniel turned to me first, his voice trembling with hurt. Why didn't you just tell me? I liked you, I really did. But you lied. Everything between us was a lie. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My boss chuckled softly, savoring the moment. Careful, Daniel. You're assuming he had a choice. He placed the folder on the table and opened it, revealing contracts, pay stubs, and photos. Photos of me as Mia at company events, smiling, flawless, unrecognizable from the man I was. Daniel's jaw clenched. He looked at me, searching for an answer, but my silence only deepened his disbelief. Then my boss leaned in, his tones suddenly sharper, like a knife. You see, Daniel, people are so quick to believe what they want to believe. He pointed at me, deliberately using she, played her part beautifully. And you? You fell for it without hesitation. Daniel's fists tightened, his voice cracking. Stop calling him that. He's not, he cut himself off, shaking his head. I don't even know what's real anymore. I wanted to scream, to confess, to beg for forgiveness. But my boss's eyes pinned me down, reminding me of the invisible leash around my neck. Finally, Daniel turned to leave, his voice breaking. I can't do this. I can't look at you right now. The door slammed behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. My boss, unfazed, poured himself a glass of water from my kitchen as though nothing had happened. That, he said smoothly, was necessary. Attachments make you sloppy. He took a sip, his eyes glittering with control. Remember, you belong to me, not to him. I sank onto the couch, my chest aching, realizing I had just lost the only person who had cared for me, not the persona my boss had crafted. And yet, deep down, a darker truth clawed its way up. A part of me had enjoyed being Mia. The next morning felt like a slow-motion collapse. I arrived at the office with the dresses folded neatly in a tote bag, each fabric a cold reminder of the life Mr. Kapoor had been building for me. I'd hoped, foolishly, that things might quiet down. Maybe he'd seen the damage his stunt with Daniel had caused. Maybe he'd back off. Instead, he welcomed me with the same clinical calm as always, only his smile was thinner, sharper. Good morning, Mia, he said, as if that name weren't a brand now but a command. He dropped a thick envelope on my desk. My fingers hovered over it, and for a second, I didn't move. The paper inside clicked when I slid it open, a contract. Lengthy clauses, glossy letterhead, lines written to box me in. Permanent representation, exclusivity clauses, severe penalties for refusal, terms that made my stomach drop. You did well in the meeting, he said. But this is bigger. We can franchise the idea. We can brand you. There are promotional events lined up, VIP dinners, photo shoots. You could be the face of a strategy that brings us dozens of clients. He watched me while I read, eyes hunting for signs of weakness. Sign, and you'll be compensated handsomely. Refuse, and we'll discuss other options. Other options. The words hung in the air like a threat. The contract offered money that would clear my debts, pay off the overdue bills by safety and anonymity to a point. But the fine print whispered of control, non-disclosure terms that favored him, release forms that allowed him to use my image anywhere, clauses that could force me into appearances I didn't want. It was less an offer and more a cage gilded with incentives. I tried to imagine telling Emma that my boss had written my name on a legal document and called it property. I couldn't. I couldn't imagine her reading a clause that meant my life could be sold to the highest bidder. The thought of it made my hands go cold. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Emma's name flashed across the screen. Thinking of you. Lunch today? I need a break. Relief and dread tangled in my chest. I wanted to pick up, to tell her everything about the contract, about the way my boss smiled when he said belong, but my mouth felt dry with fear. If Mr. Kapoor found out I'd told her, he would use it. He would say I'd broken the rules, that I'd betrayed his trust. Don't answer, Mr. Kapoor said casually when he saw the screen. Let them think you're busy. Image is everything. I've lined up a photo shoot in 2 days. We'll need a full portfolio. His voice was velvet, but the intention was iron. He folded the contract and slid it toward me like a judge presenting a verdict. Panic buoyed up, sharp and hot. This is insane, I said, not meaning to speak so loudly. The room seemed to constrict. A few coworkers glanced over, their eyes sliding away when Mr. Kapoor fixed them with a look. You can't force someone to sign away pieces of their life. He smiled, but there was no humor in it. You can always walk away from the company. But then who will you be? Out on the street, with no references, no pay, and those photos. He tapped the contract with a manicured nail. They can be used to make sure you disappear quietly. The word disappear sounded like an execution. I imagined my reputation shredded, leaked images circulating with a narrative I hadn't chosen. My breath hitched. The life I had tried to protect, my job, my friends, the thin peace I had with Emma, balanced on a single signature. That afternoon, Mr. Kapoor called an emergency meeting. The conference room, which had seemed like a stage the day before, now smelled of stale coffee and expectation. Near the glass wall, he had arranged for a professional photographer, someone who looked absurdly respectable for the part he was playing. The flash equipment sat like a small tribunal, cold metal and careful lenses pointed toward me. "You'll get used to it," he said quietly, as if consoling a child. "We'll start with simple portraits. Then we'll move to client-facing shots. People love narrative, mystery, surprise, the unexpected asset. This will be good for you. Good for us." Daniel was there too, though he sat like a storm about to break. Quiet, clenched jaw, eyes on me with a mixture of pity and fury. He'd been polite enough in public since the confrontation, but his silence had only intensified the guilt that sat heavy in my chest. He watched me stand in the center of that room as they prepared me like a product. The makeup artist worked with a kind of efficient detachment, contouring my face into the image Mr. Kapoor wanted. Softer cheekbones, wider eyes, lips glossed just so. Each brush stroke felt like varnish over something living, beauty layered on fear. I practiced smiles until my cheeks ached. I learned angles, the tiniest lift of my chin, how to make a camera love me. They praised me when I held a pose perfectly, as if mastery were the only thing that mattered. But the praise came with strings. The photographer asked me to change into different outfits: daytime business dresses, sultry evening wear, casual chic. Mr. Kapoor directed from behind the lens, approving or rejecting, his comments lubricated with condescension. A little more over the shoulder.
Chin down.
Now reach for the bag like you own it. By the time the last flash popped, my soul felt like it had been photographed itself, exposed, cataloged, and filed. The images would become a currency, and I had just minted my likeness for someone else's profit. When we wrapped, Mr. Kapoor handed me a printed image from the shoot, an 8x10 with my face turned toward the light, lips slightly parted, eyes empty of the man who had once looked back at me. He slid it into my bag, a souvenir and a threat. "We'll release this quietly," he said. "Build anticipation. You're doing well." I wanted to scream. Instead, I packed the photograph with trembling fingers and went to the bathroom to be alone. I collapsed on the closed lid of the toilet, the fluorescent light buzzing above me. In the mirror, I stared at a woman who had been shaped by other hands. For a long moment, I let the sobs come, small, useless, the sound not loud enough to shake the walls. My phone buzzed again, Emma. This time she'd left a voicemail, breathless and a little excited. "I booked us a weekend away. Just a small trip, needed to see you. Call me." Her voice was bright, trusting. A raw ache opened in my chest. I wanted to tell her to come take me away, to look me in the eyes and know me. But if she saw the photos, if Mr. Kapoor leaked them as leverage, would she ever look at me the same way? Would she feel betrayed or manipulated? There's a line in a life that, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. Sitting there, makeup smudged on my skin, with glossy images waiting to be released at my boss's discretion, I realized I had crossed it. The humiliation, the betrayal, the small pleasures Mia gave me. None of it felt mine anymore. I rinsed my face, wiped away mascara tracks that left little black rivers on my fingers, and climbed out of the bathroom with a new, brittle resolve. Back in the conference room, Mr. Kapoor was laughing with the photographer over some trivial detail, and Daniel watched from the doorway. The photographer handed me a camera card and said, "We'll process these tonight." I stepped forward, voice steady but small. "I can't sign that contract." The room went quiet. Mr. Kapoor's smile thinned until it was paper. Daniel's expression flickered between hope and dread. "You can't," Mr. Kapoor said at first, shocked, then a cold amusement replaced his surprise. "Arjun, do you understand what you're saying? This is an opportunity." "It's a violation," I said. "I didn't come here to be owned." He laughed, soft and long, a sound that did not reach his eyes. You are naive if you think you can pick and choose. The world loves spectacle and you, he leaned in close, are the spectacle. Sign or walk. I felt something inside me break, a quiet, fragile object shattering. It wasn't bravery that pushed me. It was exhaustion and a fury I hadn't known I had. I'm not signing. He studied me, the room holding its breath like a held note. Then he spoke in a voice that made my skin crawl because it was so level, so sure. Fine. We'll see how long you last with no job. We'll see whether Emma sticks around when she knows the truth. We'll see who believes Arjun without a resume to back them. He flicked his hand, dismissing me with the same casual cruelty he'd shown at every step. Take the night. Think about it. I left the office empty-handed and full of something like resolve and something like a death. Outside, the city lights glowed indifferent. I thought about calling Emma, but the image of Mr. Kapoor's printed photograph in my bag stopped me. I thought about Daniel, still outside in that doorway, looking as if a wind had been knocked out of him. I walked until my legs tired, until the noise of the city blurred into white. When I finally sat on a bench and looked at my reflection in the darkened shop windows, I saw both of us. Arjun, cheated and tired, and Mia, a silhouette shaped by someone else's desire. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, something like clarity pierced through the fog. If I wanted back the person beneath the costumes, the one who loved Emma, who'd ever been quietly proud of his work, then I would have to risk everything to get it back. Cliffhanger. My phone buzzed. A notification, a photo, already posted, anonymously, on a company forum. The caption, Meet Mia, new face of strategy. The link showed the 8x10 Mr. Kapoor had given me, released without my consent. As my heart thudded, a new fear rose. Emma's name threaded through my contacts, her arrival looming like a question I couldn't answer. The post spread faster than wildfire. By the time I reached home, messages were pouring into my inbox, some from colleagues, some from strangers. A few were innocuous, compliments dressed as curiosity. She looks amazing. Who is she? Others were sharper, invasive, filled with speculation. Is this really Arjun? Why is he dressed like that? Screenshots circulated through private chats, slithering into places I couldn't reach. When Emma called again, I froze. My thumb hovered over accept.
She would have seen it by now.
Everyone had. My body felt both hot and hollow, a fever with no cure. Finally, I answered. Arjun. Her voice was clipped, like she had rehearsed. Do you want to explain why my colleagues are sending me this? The word this was a blade. She texted the image to me, as if I needed proof. There I was, Mia, polished and perfect, the caption bold beneath it. The new face of strategy. It's not. I started, but the lie withered before it left my lips. Emma, I can explain. Then explain, she demanded. Because right now, it looks like you've been living some secret life, one I wasn't invited into. The silence stretched. I wanted to tell her everything, about Kapoor, the contract, the threats, the nights I had stared at my reflection and felt the edges blur. But the words refused to form. My throat burned with all the swallowed confessions. She sighed on the other end, not angry this time, but exhausted. We'll talk. Tomorrow. Face to face. Then she hung up. I sat in the dark apartment, my mind spiraling. The walls felt smaller, as if they were pressing me inward, folding me into myself. I grabbed the photograph from my bag, the glossy surface cold against my fingers. I wanted to tear it apart, but when I held it up to the dim lamp, I saw something that stopped me. The eyes staring back weren't empty, not fully. Beneath the fear, there was a trace of something undeniable, a version of me that looked alive in a way Arjun never had. It was humiliating and liberating all at once, and that contradiction nearly broke me. A knock at the door snapped me out of the spiral. My heart lunged into my throat. Emma wouldn't come this late. Neighbors never knocked. I approached cautiously. When I opened it, Daniel stood there, damp from the night rain, his jaw set like stone. "We need to talk," he said. I blinked, stunned. "How did you?" "Your boss doesn't own you," he cut in, his voice low but urgent. "You're being trapped, Arjun. And now that photo's out, he's not going to stop. He'll use you until there's nothing left." The fight I had been holding in cracked wide open. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't been living it every day?" My voice rose, raw. "I didn't ask for this, Daniel. I didn't want to be some spectacle." His eyes softened. "Then stop letting him win." The simplicity of it hit harder than any threat Kapoor had made. Stop letting him win. But how? My boss had power, money, control of the narrative. I had what? A fractured identity, a furious girlfriend, a photo already out in the world. Still, for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Daniel's presence was like a small anchor in the storm. He reached into his coat and handed me a flash drive. "Proof," he said. "I've been keeping records, contracts, messages, directives. Enough to bring him down if you're willing to risk it." I stared at the drive like it was radioactive. With it, I could expose Kapoor. Without it, I remained his puppet. But using it meant going public. Me, Mia, Arjun, all tangled in a spectacle bigger than I could control. Before I could decide, my phone buzzed again. Another message. My stomach flipped when I saw the sender, Mr. Kapoor. The message was short, chilling. "Tomorrow's event is at 7. Be ready, Mia. If you're not, Emma will see more than one photo." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Tomorrow. An event. The net was tightening, and this time, escape wasn't just about me. It was about Emma, about what she would see, what she would believe. Daniel watched me pale. "What did he say?" I couldn't answer. Instead, I clutched the flash drive in one hand, my phone in the other, the two choices burning into my skin. One path meant submission. The other meant war. And as the rain hammered harder against the window, I realized tomorrow might be the day everything came undone. Would I step into that event as Kapoor's creation, or would I use Daniel's proof to blow it all apart, even if it meant Emma learning the truth in the most brutal way? The night of the event arrived like a held breath finally released. The venue was a converted loft, glass, exposed brick, and a runway of soft light cutting across the center. Mr. Kapoor had built it as a private preview for select clients, a wine and canapés affair with the face of strategy, making a special appearance. He'd promised exclusivity, spectacle, a quiet celebration that would cement his idea as genius. I promised myself nothing. I stood in the green room with the rest of the talent, the word tasting like iron on my tongue. The photographer's glossy images were displayed on an easel near the entrance, my face, poised and edited beyond recognition. The printed 8x10 that had leaked weeks earlier had multiplied into a gallery. I could feel their eyes on every curve of my jawline, every painted stroke of lipstick. Mr. Kapoor hovered nearby, all smile and predator patience. Daniel had arrived early and slipped me into the corner like an ally in a war zone. He looked exhausted and fierce, someone who had traded comfort for consequence. He handed me the same flash drive again, small and ordinary, as if it carried a bomb. "We can blow it tomorrow," he murmured. "Upload everything to a trusted journalist. Expose him. Expose the threats, the contracts, the threats to Emma. But you have to be ready for whatever comes after." I pressed the drive into my palm, its plastic edges biting into my skin. I imagined headlines, the court of public opinion, my name threaded through scandal columns. I imagined Emma reading the truth in an article, cold, edited text telling her how I'd been coerced, how my likeness had been weaponized. The thought hurt more than any blackmail. "Do it," Mr. Kapoor said from behind me, as if he'd read the whole argument in my face. He'd been listening all along. "Go on, then. Make me the villain. See how sympathy plays out." His voice was velvet and venom both. At 7, they called my name. I could feel my skin prickle, the moment when all the rehearsed moves would have to hold up against real eyes and real judgment. I walked the runway the way they'd rehearsed, shoulders back, smile calibrated, a poise that had become my armor and my chain. Flashbulbs cracked. Drinks clinked. Whispers rose and fell like tides. And then Emma arrived. I saw her before she saw me. through the window of the loft, framed by the doorway like an apparition. She looked tired from travel, hair loose, a scarf thrown around her shoulders, and for a dizzy second I forgot the script, the contract, the photograph in my bag. My knees weakened. All the bravado I had cultivated dissolved into that single, human ache. Don't lose her because of this. Her gaze swept the room, landing on the photographs first, then on my face as I finished a practiced curtsy. For a fraction of a second, recognition sparked in her eyes. Her expression folded into a more complicated map, confusion, hurt, something like betrayal. She turned toward the staff at the entrance, probably expecting an explanation. Her phone came up. She looked like she was reaching for the call she'd promised. My boss smiled like a man who'd already won. He started his spiel, how this image would captivate clients, how branding a persona could drive profit in new markets. The crowd nodded. I forced a smile that tasted of gravel. Daniel stood in the wings like a coiled animal. Then, because it was the moment the world seemed to have conspired toward, two things happened at once. From somewhere in the back, a deliberate, soft click, came a video projection. A screen on the loft wall flickered alive. Mr. Kapoor's face was projected first, the slick, unblinking presentation he always used. But the next frames rewrote the narrative. Emails, contracts, and voicemail clips streamed across the wall with surgical clarity, Mr. Kapoor instructing me to wear the look, threats about releasing photos, a recorded voice, my own, being coached into a persona. The gallery of images turned into evidence. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Murmurs curdled into a hum of disbelief. My heart thundered as I looked for the source. Daniel's mouth moved. He hadn't gone to a journalist. He'd found another way, a live feed to the room, to clients, to anyone with eyes. He'd chosen immediacy over caution. He'd chosen exposure. Mr. Kapoor's smile fractioned. For the first time, he looked unmoored. He pointed at the screen, stammering accusations about hacking, about defamation. His voice grew thin under the weight of the projection, evidencing the exact coercion he'd used. A handful of people in the crowd drew their phones, their faces changing as they watched the files, read the messages. Emma's phone lay on the table by her hand. She didn't press accept. She looked between me and the unraveling spectacle, and in her eyes I saw the collision of stories, everything I had hidden and everything he had made of me. Her face was unreadable for a breath, and then, because the night was not done with cruelty or mercy, someone in the crowd yelled. Performer, a voice called, ugly and loud. Is this even legal? A ripple of laughter, cruel and small, broke from one edge of the crowd. Slurs and snide comments surfaced like weeds. My face flushed hot. A high heel slipped against the polished floor. For an instant my ankle wobbled. The photograph in my bag felt heavier than lead. Security moved toward the projection screen, trying to cut the feed. People started to stand, whispering, shouting, confused. Mr. Kapoor lunged toward the technician, his face contorted with rage. Daniel stepped forward, his jaw set. Cameras still flashed, capturing the chaos. Emma rose from her seat. She moved toward me, but stopped when two of the stern-faced security guards stepped between us. Her eyes never left mine. They searched me as if trying to reconcile two strangers in one frame, the man she loved and the person the company had made into a spectacle. In that charged space between us, 1,000 questions spun like knives. I took one step toward her, then another, and then a hollowness opened in the room as the lights cut out. For a second, everything went black. Silence, breath, the sound of the city pressing in. The emergency lights hummed on, painting everyone in jaundiced yellow. In the sudden dim, a masked figure slipped in through a side door, someone moving fast, hands reaching for the easel with my photographs. People screamed. Mr. Kapoor shouted orders. Daniel's face was pale and wild. And then, as if the night wanted to leave no one with certainty, the fire alarm blared, sharp, relentless, and the sprinklers sighed to life, dumping a cold, steady rain onto the crowd. The photographs smeared, lipstick running into the paper like tears. The projection stuttered and died. Security herded people toward the exits. Emma reached for me, fingers inches away, and then the force of the crowd pushed us apart. Somebody shoved me. My heel caught in a seam. I felt the world tilt as I stumbled, and in that stumble a wig slipped, barely, its edge catching on a pin. For a sliver of a second the hair came away, and the room caught the flash, the gasp, the recognition. But then the sprinkler's cascade erased it all into a blur of wet fabric and shouted names. We were pushed out into the wet street. Journalists clustered like vultures. Phones recorded, live streams continued, and in the roar of voices I heard Emma's name, half question, half plea. Daniel was at my side, breathless. Mr. Kapoor's shouts chased us into the storm. I looked at Emma as we were swept past each other, 100 possible endings flickering behind her gaze. Would she reach for me, or turn away? Would she stand with me when every image that defined me had been weaponized, or would the story Mr. Kapoor had spun be the one that stayed? Before I could move, my phone buzzed with a single, anonymous message. "We have everything. Your next move decides who you lose." I squeezed my phone until my knuckles hurt. The rain stung my face. Emma's silhouette was swallowed by the press of people. Daniel called my name, urgent, insistent. But at that moment I realized something harder than fear. I had already been torn between being loved and being exploited. Either choice would break something. And then the crowd swallowed us, and the question hung in the air like a knife. Would I run to save what remained of our June, or step forward and accept what Mia had become, consequences and all?